On the left, we once again have Leon Schlechter with his burn deck that has won a couple rounds. Yeah, he's at a 3-0 score. So is his opponent, Richard Solden.
And Richard is starting out with a nice strong turn 1 play, choosing to leave his land untapped and take 1 damage and plays a one mana creature. What is that creature, Neil?
That is Elvish Mystic. It is a dead standard mana dork, taps for green.
Alrighty. So this looks like a monster ramp deck, so he's probably just going to look to try play as many lands as possible, as many creatures that just generate mana and vomit out massive creatures very soon.
Particularly against the burn deck, he'll be looking for a turn 2 Courser of Krufix to start gaining him life.
But instead he plays...
Sylvan Carroted. Richard does not have his second land drop.
That 1 land hands are not good, people.
He's still going to, unless... Ah, yes, here we see that Leon has seized... He has seen that Richard has missed his land drop, and he's used a burn spell to take out that mana dork. And that burn spell was Searing Blood, which deals damage to Richard as well. He's already down to 15.
That's a very strong start from Leon, and Richard is already on the ropes. But he does hit his second land drop, deciding to come and tap because he sees that this is a burn deck and he needs as much health as possible.
And he can still cast his 2-drop anyway. He's got a Scavenging Ooze down. That's another avenue for gaining life for Richard, which is the key to this burn matchup.
Yeah, that'll help him sort of out-sustain the massive aggression coming from Leon in his burn deck.
Well, so Richard hopes.
Yeah, that's the idea, and hopefully it works out for Richard.
He still has that Courser of Krufix in hand, but that only gains life every time he makes a land drop, so he'll need to draw lands either way.
Well, he's been quite light on land so far, so the odds are more in his favor for drawing heavy on land later, and that makes land later on not just such a dead drop, especially if he's got so much ramp.
Yeah, and he has big heavy hitting cards in his Jund Monsters deck.
That is a turn 3 Chandra's Phoenix hitting him in the face.
Yeah, that takes Richard down to 13. He's not in a precarious position just yet.
Now 13 still fairly comfortable against a burn deck. It's not at turn 4 he's not going to have enough reach to kill him in one shot. But Richard is going to start getting worried if he doesn't make consistent land drops.
Remember though that Corsair can actually help him make his land drops because it reveals that top card, and if it's a land he can put into play. That's is true. Not a land. It's another Sylvan Caryatid though, so he can still keep increasing his mana, but this isn't the way he'd like to do it. He'd rather just be hitting those land drops every turn.
Yeah. So much easier just to play a land every turn and be able to use that mana rather than having to tap creatures for mana.
Let's see if Leon can capitalize on Richard's stumble though. He's got that Chandra's Phoenix in play, and he's got a pretty full grip. He's got 5 cards in hand.
Yeah, so he's still got a lot of burn in his arsenal just to get rid of it. I can still see a Mutavault there, second one, so he can even activate those Mutavaults to hit him for that little bit of extra damage that he might need.
Well, right now that 2/4 Courser of Krufix is blocking those, but would Richard really risk blocking? Because he'll know that a shock would then take down his Courser.
Yeah, he might not want to risk his Courser just to take out a Mutavault, especially if if Leon is just continuously pressuring him.
Yeah, and if Richard's Courser dies, he definitely does not make his land drop next turn.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be stuck on 3 mana this whole game. He wants to be sinking mana into Scavenging Ooze, growing it to a big size and gaining life.
Yeah, definitely.
He also has a Stormbreath Dragon in his hand. He'd like to get that out. That's the best blocker he could have for Chandra's Phoenix.
What are the stats on Stormbreath Dragon?
5 mana, 4/4 flyer. Very typical stats for a magic card.
And
it's got haste, it's got monstrosity, protection from white, and it's monstrosity of 3, I believe, for 7 mana. Also deals damage to target opponents equal to their cards in hand.
But Leon does manage to remove that Courser of Krufix with a 4 damage burn spell, of which I do not know the name.
Yeah, Warleader's Helix. It also gains him 4 life. So Leon is sitting at 22 life. He's under no pressure.
Yeah.
He just has to draw the cards he needs to kill Richard.
Yeah.
Richard, on the other hand, really wants to hit those land drops. He's not doing it this turn. He needs to get that mana.
And as you said, killing that Courser of Krufix ensures that Richard does not hit his land drop this turn.
Yeah, because the top card that Richard drew was a Sylvan Caryatid.
Yeah.
It does get him another mana, but he has to tap 2 mana just to put it out.
Yeah.
There are 2 creatures in Richard's graveyard, so he can start feeding his Scavenging Ooze, but he needs mana to do that.
Yeah. He does need mana. I mean, what is the activation cost on Scavenging Ooze's ability?
Yeah, it's 1 mana.
It's 1 mana. Okay. Yeah. So you can do it twice if he's got no other play. So Richard does tap 2 mana to play down that Sylvan Caryatid most likely.
Yeah. And the Caryatids are a nice safe mana source, unlike the Mystic, because they have hexproof.
Okay. So then,
Richard's still thinking about his play. Remember the live totals at this stage. Leon's on 22. Richard, I believe, is on 11.
yeah. So
that-
Richard's sort of half his opponent's life. He's under pressure now. He needs to make this play just to ensure, yes, he needs a Sylveon character just so he can ramp into his bigger things. Hopefully find something to block that Chandra's Phoenix at some point in the near future. Otherwise, that 2 damage every turn, I believe it is just going to take him down faster than he can deal with.
Yeah, it's actually it's a quite quick clock when the only life gain he'll have going is Scavenging Ooze, and that's using all his mana.
Yeah. So Richard does choose to hit Leon in the face with the Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, that puts Leon back to square one at 20 life.
Yeah. So Richard still has the entire of his starting life pool to
But notice
to
that
kill.
Richard could have hit for 1 more damage by tapping 1 carrier to activate Scavenging Ooze's damage, but he wants 2 blockers for those 2 Mutavaults.
Yeah. He doesn't want to give Leon the potential to do 4 extra damage on top of the 2 damage that he's just always taking because he cannot deal with his Chandra's Phoenix right now.
Exactly, and that Chandra's Phoenix has him down to 9. Richard must be feeling the pressure now. You'll notice from Richard's playmat that he was in the top 8 of the last WMCQ. He got all the way to the semi-finals before losing to a Black-Red Devotion deck piloted by our very own Neil Stacey.
Yeah, the man who just putting forward his own name. And what are those 2
Gotta
creatures?
get my name out there
Gotta get his
somehow.
name out there somehow.
Yeah.
What are those 2 creatures that he just? Are those 2 young pyromancers?
That's 2 young Pyromancers. This means that Leon has a pretty scary board. Every spell he casts now is going to get him 2 tokens. He can overrun Richard in short order from this position.
Yeah. And Richard still has not hit his land drop. He's looking frantically through his hand to try find something, some answer to it. And
Every time he looks, there's still no land.
yeah, this doesn't
Look
change.
again, Richard.
Yeah. Look again. That dragon still costs 4 mana.
Yeah, it still costs 5.
5.
It hasn't turned into a forest.
Nope.
Yeah, Richard is... He's rightfully nervous here.
Yeah. He's tapping
is
3
tapping
He's going
3.
to cost something. What is he going to cost?
What is Richard putting out here? Domri Raid. That lets him dig... That actually helps him in hitting his land drops because it looks for creatures. So if he's got a creature on top of the deck, Domri's going to put it into his hand and dig him 1 deeper to the land drop.
Okay. Richard is sort of scraping his deck for any means to get to his land drops. I think he does tap his other creature to get a count on the Scavenging Ooze and gain a life.
So he's going up to 10. He's padding his life total, and he's also growing the Ooze. It's now a pretty good blocker at a 3/3.
Yeah. What would have removed the young pyromancer there?
He used the fight ability on Domri Raid to fight with the young Pyromancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he must have buffed his Ooze, fought with the pyromancer.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
Okay.
So he's attacking Leon's board a bit here, which is a good move.
Yeah.
He needs that 3rd land desperately, though.
Yeah.
I would be inclined to just dig as deep as I can with Domri.
Yeah.
Because if there's a creature on top, then Domri can put it into his hand with
Okay.
the plus. And then, if the next card is a land, he gets it.
Yeah. Say we get that far. What is Domri's sort of ultimate ability? What is his big minus?
It wins you the game eventually. It gives all your creatures all kinds of abilities. They get bigger, they get fatter, they get double strike, trample, they get all kinds of things. So if Domri goes ultimate,
Richard does have a pipe dream, but those are 2 Mutavaults just
yeah. Well,
hitting him in the
Domri's
face.
now on 1 loyalty. Ultimate is not what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
This Scavenging Ooze is going to block young Pyromancer. These Mutavaults, now that Richard's Sylvan Caryatids are tapped, these Mutavaults can get in for damage. Richard's taking 6 here, which drops him to 4, and that's a Boros charm. That'll do it.
If Richard doesn't have any answers, that'll do it.
Well, he has no mana, so it's hard to have answers.
Yeah. In Magic, every answer needs mana, and that is the game 1 to Leon.
That was a difficult game for Richard. He just couldn't get his 3rd land drop. In fact, he was stuck for his 2nd land drop for a while, and the 3rd one never came.